Marc Cox Show on FM News Talk 97.1, 98.7, AM 1490, and 97.1talk.com.
Sessions.
Last month, St. Louis newspaper ran a story of the heroin crisis here. It featured a young woman named Ashley. She had used heroin off and on for a decade, even though it meant losing her 3 children to state custody. She told the reporter she wished she had never started using heroin. Second, she said, "I just wanted to try it." She called that decision, quote, "the dumbest thing ever," close quote. We need to focus on that. We need to help young people not make that mistake. If our nation was sending a stronger message never to use drugs, how different might Ashley's life be, or the lives of so many others like her? What if someone had told them trying it just once may be all it takes to start down the road of devastating addiction?
The Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, part of his comments this morning here in St. Louis at the Eagleton Federal Courthouse, and I thought it was interesting when you go to the Google News page, they've actually got coverage of the Attorney General's speech in St. Louis this morning. And the headline of their article is, "Cops Unfairly Blamed for Violence," according to Jeff Sessions. They're trying to make it out to that he said something that he didn't say. I want you to hear what he said, because what he said made a lot of sense. He referred to Ferguson, and then he talked about the Ferguson effect on policing around this country and why that's got to stop. The man was making a lot of sense when he was in St. Louis today. I'll play that for you coming up just a little bit later. One thing that we've talked about the last couple of days is issues in the election. We've talked about Prop P. We've talked about Crestwood has a tax increase on several school districts. I know Parkway and I believe Rockwood at least they have some bond issues or something going on. And they've got some school board elections going on in some different districts. Another thing that city voters are going to be voting on is this, to float some bonds and give some taxpayer money for a soccer stadium. And we're joined right now by Graham Renz from the Show Me Institute in here on a Friday to talk more about that. How are you?
I'm well, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. What's going on with this? This is... They held a news conference the other day, I know, and everybody was bragging about the fact that, if we just get this thing passed on Tuesday, we're bringing soccer here.
Yeah. Well,
rah.
That's right. It likely would bring soccer here.
Yeah.
But you know what? The big push for this stadium is it's going to bring jobs. It's going to revitalize downtown. It's going to attract businesses, attract millennials, whatever that means, right?
Right.
And it makes me think. The first job I had out of college, I worked for a very successful politician in Kansas City, and he gave me this piece of advice. He said, "Graham, if you want to succeed, always under-promise and over-deliver."
There you go.
And it seems like the stadium boosters are doing the exact opposite. They're promising the moon. They're promising jobs, gushing tax revenue, or revitalize downtown Kansas City. But based on the research, based on the history here in St. Louis, in cities across the country, we see stadiums don't spur these economic booms we're promised. They don't just gush public money. There's a lot of promises. History, research, economics shows us that they often don't come true.
Yeah, and we're not just railing on soccer here. I promise we're not just railing on soccer. The Rams are a great example of it. It seems like anything we've done like that, and now the folks in Oakland are feeling our pain, and folks in other cities have felt their pain. When economic conditions change or they're not getting the revenue stream they thought they were going to get when they're in a certain town, and their interest turns somewhere else. And just like the TIF issue we talk about with moving big box stores from one zip code to another one, pretty soon some other city's trying to lure our soccer team over there, and we're stuck with a $180 million stadium that's empty.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of issues, and Oakland's feeling the pain, but I don't think they're feeling the pain as bad as Las Vegas taxpayers are, who are coming up with $750 million to build a stadium for a billionaire. That doesn't make sense. What does make sense, or what I think should be talked about more, is the fact that 85% of economists think that we should eliminate subsidies for sports teams and sports stadiums. The economic research, there's wide consensus. Unlike many topics, minimum wage, really smart people are split on that, right? Subsidies for sports stadiums, not one of those things. Not one of those things. Folks from all stripes can say, this isn't going to grow the economy. This isn't a good public investment. It might be a great private one, If these folks came in and used all their, just their own money, they'd be hometown heroes. We'd be patting them on the back for not going to the taxpayers. But, they first wanted $80 million from the city, $40 million from the state. When things went bad, they said, "Oh no! We only need $60 million. We got our numbers wrong, right?" And it's the same old story. And economists have been saying for decades, "Don't give your tax money to sports franchises."
Sounds like they've read The Art of the Deal.
Yeah.
You always ask for more than you're hoping to get, right?
Yeah.
Then you compromise.
Yeah, they must get. They didn't get the advice I got, but they got good advice from someone else.
That's right. That's the truth. Yeah. I've explained this. I'm not a soccer fan, so I would never have been passionate about this particular decision in the first place. But the economics of it speak for themselves. It's almost like St. Louis has gotten in the habit over the years of doing things that make them feel good, but that don't make any sense economically, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. We've poured hundreds of millions of dollars on downtown through TIF, through abatement, through special taxing districts, trying to get something going. We did that with the Dome, with the convention center. How many times are we going to redevelop Union Station in hopes that all of a sudden downtown's going to take off? And we're hearing the same story, but things just don't come through. And if $60 million is worth it to you to have a soccer team for civic pride, for what I can't argue against that. That's a different argument. But what we're being told by proponents is that, hey, this is going to grow downtown. This is going to boost the economy. That I can argue with, right? Research doesn't support that. What happens is that we see the activity that might go on at a stadium, right? And we say, hey, look at all these jobs we've created, all this business that's going on. But what we don't see are all the jobs that weren't created because we taxed $60 million out of the economy and we spent it on the stadium. And there's only so much money folks are going to spend on entertainment, on restaurants. We see if the stadium gets built, we're going to see that activity that's now going at area restaurants, movie theaters. It's going to be redirected to the stadium. It's not going to be new. And so that's why we don't see the growth that we're always promised.
Maybe they'll have enough money to put cops on every Metrolink train. Just speculating. I'm just saying that's a totally different issue, but I wanted to. It just made sense because they'll want people to take Metrolink to the soccer. It currently runs under it, right? Doesn't Metrolink runs right along where the stadium would be because it comes to the Union Station stop down here. So that's interesting. Graham Renz from the Show Me Institute. You can go to their website at the Show Me Institute at showmeinstitute.org. Read more on this issue and many others. Thank you, my friend.
Yep, thank you much. And just real quick, I do have an op-ed in the St. Louis Business Journal today. So if you want to read more about the economics, about the research, I'd urge you to go read there. So.
Wow, good for you. Great to see you.
Yep,
I appreciate
pleasure.
that. And as my friend Jamie Allman would say, let me leave you with this thought.
Soccer is a gay sport. Youth League soccer, the MLS, even the World Cup, all of it is completely gay.
I had to borrow that from my friends at Allman in the morning. I did it when Katie